Today I'm talking about autism and sitting. And you might be wondering how these two things are related, or you might not. But it wasn't something that I thought about very much until I saw an infographic on it a while ago. And that got me thinking. I did know that for a lot of people who are autistic or who have ADHD, normally sitting on your butt with your feet flat on the floor can be tough. It can sometimes be almost impossible. It can sometimes feel just about impossible, and as a kid it can be especially challenging. Even as an adult, I find it challenging. I almost always have to have one leg up like this, and after a while, like on really long car rides, that gets hard. So then I always want to put my legs up like that, which Paul tells me not to do. But this is probably just about the only way with straight legs that I can sit that isn't annoying. And my knees totally hyperextend. I think part of the reason that a lot of us have trouble sitting just with our feet flat on the floor, on our butts, can be because a lot of us are hypermobile and have hypermobile joints. And that can make sitting normally painful. Like just sitting like this, I feel it in my back. And when I was a kid, it was even more dramatic. I remember always like, I'd be bringing one leg up like this and like touching it to the back of my head. And just, I had a hard time sitting normally. And I think the other part of it is that a lot of us are proprioceptive sensory seekers, and our joints need more input than the average person, and we don't get that when we're sitting perfectly still. So for me, when I'm sitting, there's almost always two things that have to be happening. Almost always I have my right leg up like this. This is probably how I sit most of the time, or like this, because it makes my back happy and all of my joints happy to have one leg folded. Sometimes I do get by crossing my legs. I guess the reason that I'm sharing this is because I know that this was even more challenging for me when I was younger. And there were actual expectations of how I would sit, like in school. I mean, if you're sitting on your foot, someone would want to tell you to sit on your butt or on your bottom. And that was seriously uncomfortable for me. And I think this is similar in a lot of ways to eye contact. For some of us, if I was to sit normally, all I would be focused on was how I was sitting, and it would be really hard for me to listen. But if I'm sitting in a way that's more comfortable, I can actually focus on what's going on. It's like it would be for anyone, except for a lot of people, I guess, sitting properly in a chair is comfortable. The other part of it is that it's also really hard for me to sit, and this was big time true when I was in school, without doing something with my hands. And honestly, I haven't been that successful with finding fidgets that I really love, with things that are classically fidgets. Today I had a doctor's appointment and it was telehealth, and I was sitting there the whole entire time. I grabbed the tweezers off my little makeup kit that I had nearby, and the whole entire time I was squeezing this, scratching my nail polish with it. It was down out of sight, so the doctor couldn't see it. But the whole entire time I was playing with this, mostly squeezing it and using it to just scratch off the tiny bit of nail polish that the nail polish remover missed. And it's easier for me to think and listen when my hands are doing that. In school, sometimes because it was appropriate, it would be a pen. I also know, I remember specifically in like 6th grade, we had desks. Of course we had desks, but not the kind of desks that were like, I don't know, more like a pedestal, but the kind of desk that covered your legs. And I remember softly tap dancing under the desk all the time, but not that loud, obviously. And then when I couldn't do that anymore, because apparently it wasn't that quiet, I did my toes. I would do the tap steps with just my toes. So just my feet inside my shoes were doing little tiny tap steps that no one could tell me not to do because they couldn't really see them. Or sometimes with my hands, I would make designs, press down with my fingertips and make designs like that, a certain pattern over and over again. And it wasn't something usually that was even very conscious, but it was something that got me focused. And when I got older and started knitting, then that was something I always wanted to have knitting in my hands because it's like the perfect stem and it's somewhat acceptable, although not usually in school. So I guess this is a little bit mixed. On the one hand, it is about the posture of sitting and how that is often different for people who are autistic or who have other neurodivergencies. Is that how you say it? I always screw that up. But also how stimming can make it easier for a student or an adult or a kid or anyone, a person, to focus. I did a lot of drawing little tiny lines on the corners of my papers over and over again. And now there's phones, which honestly are really the perfect dopamine machines because we can just scroll and scroll, and that is a stim too. Anyways, so that was my talk. That is what I wanted to share about stimming and sitting and how it can be different. I love what I have seen in my kids' classrooms, some just typical classrooms and some autism classrooms. I love how they have like the bouncy straps that go on the bottom of the chairs. I love how many places now have ball chairs or chairs with like the squishy pads. It just seems like that is understood more clearly now, how important it is for kids to not just be forced to sit still in hard plastic seats and sit in a certain way. I wanted to add to that because I know that it is getting more understood. But as an autistic person who never really thought about it, I did know that I sat differently from most other people because I knew I just couldn't sit like this without it taking major body control and it being a conscious effort. That's why I wanted to talk about it today. I'd love to hear from those of you who also can't sit still properly in a chair, or about your favorite stims that helped you focus when you were in school. My bracelets also are another one. I'm always wearing bracelets like this, and I found them and I have a lot of them now because I love rolling them up and down my arm. I love putting my fingers through them and tugging on them. It just has a lot of input in a lot of different ways that is pleasant. That is it for today. If you like this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in all things autism, which is what we're always talking about around here, I'd love it if you'd hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Seriously, dude, leave it alone. Leave it, kitty. Is not having Tony. You cannot be out here with us. You would start arguing with the cats. They would chase you, you would cry, it would be sad for everyone. Watch. You guys, don't be mean to him. Just because he's littler than you doesn't mean he's mean. I'm not going outside. You are. You heard me talking in my video voice and it made you want to come out here. Don't be near them. I know you chase them. No chasing dogs. Hey. You stay up there. This is every day. Yeah. Look at you just watching the puppy. I'm proud of you, Snowball, for not scaring him. Like it has. I want to be part of this. It can sometimes be almost impossible. As an adult. You guys.